Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event of the evening. 60 minutes of football fun and banter with Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV. Are you ready? Let's get ready to rumble.
Strap yourself in,
because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform
or ask your smart speaker
to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
This is your host, Chris.
No! God, please, no! No!
I know, I'm sorry, but he's cheap and available.
How rude.
Right, Chris.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlefolk. How the devil are you all? Yeah, it's a big weekend. It's another East Midlands derby. You wait, well, since the last century for one, and then you get three along in 2 years. What is going on? We've forgotten what it was like to have an East Midlands team in the top league with us. We had it pretty much to ourselves, but they're back. And on the week that we decided that we got bigger fish to fry than the Fizzy Pop Cup, it was nice to see that after penalties that Nottingham Forest got through to the first semi-final. And I know what you're thinking. I've seen the women of Nottingham as well, and I don't know how they ever get a semi. But that would be rude of me to say that. That would be very rude of me to say that. So forget I said it. We'll edit that out afterwards. It's not live. Nobody will know. But it is a proper derby weekend. It is the Manchester derby, which is on Sky. It is the London derby, which is on Sky. It is the East Midlands derby, which, surprise, it's not on Sky. Who would have known that? Who would have known? But look, let me bring my cohort in. I mean, he is Leicester's answer to Joey Essex. He's a bit of a prima donna. Likes to make an entrance. And some would say he's got a very nice entrance as well. Bring him in late as always, but nice to have him here. Craig, good evening, sir. How the devil?
Good evening, Chris. Good evening, everyone. How are we doing?
Not so bad.
Leicester's Joey Essex, eh?
Well, what can I say?
What can you say?
Just keep your finger on whatever you're holding your finger on at the moment because it's working. You are with us. Before we get the Forest guys in, we're making a signing, possibly.
To be honest, I've not seen anything. I've seen rumours and bits and pieces. Fill me in, Chris.
I bet you say that to all the boys. Apparently, we have agreed personal terms with, and you just want me to make me say his name, don't you?
It's more fun.
Nicholas Gonzalez. Actually, not one of the worst ones I've ever had to pronounce. And if you are going to Google it, please note there are two Nicholas Gonzalez. There's a Spanish one and an Argentinian one. We've gone for the Argentinian one. Currently, Fiorentina he is at. Yeah, he was at Argentina Juniors, and he went for 11 million to Stuttgart. Who sold him only last year to Fiorentina for 24 million euros. He's a left-footed right winger. I've got to get that the right way round, which obviously is what Brendan's been wanting. Probably
the new Mahrez is finally here.
Yes, well, hope so. He's played 21 times for Argentina, national side, scoring 3 goals. He played one game and scored a goal for the under-21s. But he's played 7 times this season and he's got 2 goals. So he's not a starter. And he wasn't in the starting lineup for their game tonight. He was on the bench.
Right. Okay. I mean, he's got quite a good assist record as well. I'm led to believe from what I saw over the few seasons he's been playing. So, high hopes of this one, I think, to be honest. We've had a few false dawns on that right wing.
We have, and I think we'll look at Lookman and go, maybe that's the one that got away. But especially at the price. I mean, Facebook user, stick your name on the end, mate, so we can give you a shout out. Seems a bit pricey, but I mean, that's the market at the moment. And unfortunately, we don't normally do a lot of business in January, and I don't like the January window, but needs must.
Yeah, and I think a couple of so-called bigger clubs were looking at him before he went to Stuttgart as well. And as they do, you know, those so-called big clubs, a lot of them like to see South American players play a little bit first before they sort of come in with their big bids. You know, they like the clubs like Leicester to do their sort of donkey work for them and test the water and how they will be in the Premier League. So, you know, fair enough if we get another sort of investment player, shall we say, get a couple of seasons out of him and then double the fee, then, you know, that's back to what we were doing.
I'm just wondering, I mean, it is a lot of money, especially as we've already been quoted the same sort of price for Uwuni, is it, or who are you, whatever he's called, the Moroccan player. Would you think that deal would now be dead? Because I mean, 60 million in one transfer window for Leicester.
Potentially. I think they've probably looked at where they want to strengthen. And thing is, usually in these kind of things, they have first choice, second choice, third choice, or whatever. And then it works. What would be interesting to know is whether he was our first or second choice. But as soon as this sort of story broke, then I think most of the noises were quite positive that this could be a really good signing.
Fab speaks highly of him, Fabrizio Romero on Twitter, and he's the one that's has been pushing the agenda. So fingers crossed. But back to normal football for the time being. With a bit of a derby this weekend. Like I say, there's 3 derbies. Told you, bro, is in. Good evening, sir. How are you? And LDH as well. Good evening to you as well. Look, we're playing Nottingham Forest. It's only fair that we bring a couple of their fans in, you know. And I know what everybody's going to say, you know, and you do not appreciate the work that I put into this channel. Finding 2 Nottingham Forest fans. I know, you know, we thought they only had the one, but no, I have managed to find another one in the dugout. Let's bring the first guy you know well. He's been on here before. Always great for a bit of banter. It is Astbury, Dave Astbury. How the devil?
Evening, gentlemen. Evening, gentlemen. I'm not too bad after last night, chaps. To be honest.
No, funnily that.
So yeah, if you'd asked me after Blackpool, I'd have probably been like jumping into the, in front of a bus in the high street here. But no, after last night, we're not.
To be fair, the big cups are not for everyone.
No.
So build your way up.
Yeah. We're sort of like all I want is 17th. That's not all I'm interested in. Everything else, gentlemen, is noise. Just want 17th.
So do we at the moment, the way things are going.
We're both joined on 17 points. We were together in October, unable to be separated at the bottom of the league. And actually, you know, fair play to both teams. They worked their way up the table, you know. So here we are again, locked on 17 points.
It is meant to be. We should ride off into the sunset together. Look, talking of the 2 games that you've just mentioned, everybody who's in the chat now, we always have a regular Nottingham Forest guy in. He's great guy, up for a bit of banter. And he was in, and I'm pleased to say he was in last night when you won the penalty shootout. But what was more fun from our point of view was that he was in when you played Blackpool. and you took it all. You took it all, sir.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did.
Yeah. Well, welcome along, Luke. Luke, this is Craig in the top that way. Yeah, the old silver fox. And of course, Craig, you've met Dave before, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Actually, no, we haven't. Sorry, Luke.
Memorable.
Thank you for being my brother tonight, mate. I needed a brother. So
Always, of course, against these Leicester people.
What did they say about people from Nottingham? If you two are brothers, God help us.
What is it? What is it? We're like what you get if cousins marry, something like that. You know what I mean?
That's it. That's the thing. I didn't like to say it, but
faces for the radio, gentlemen. Faces for the radio.
Indeed.
What's two?
Luke, you've got a channel. Dave doesn't, but you do have a channel on YouTube. So give it a shout out. Where can people find you?
Thank you so much. You can find me on YouTube under the True Red, and you can find me on Instagram under Luca Williams 11.
There we go. True Red on YouTube, and we'll add those in later. Dave, do you want to give your Twitter out, or do you want to?
Well, I don't have a channel, gents. So I'd rather leave it to professionals like Luke and yourself, Chris and Craig. I've got enough on my.
You have been on this show before, have you?
I just hang out. I'm just like a groupie to all you guys. You know what I mean? I kind of let you all do the work. I come on, have a chat, and then go back and then have a cup of tea and let you lot do the editing. As it is, I've got a couple of doddery old parents that I need to look after, and they're my priority at the moment. So
don't talk about Craig like that when he's in.
I'm in the room upstairs that he keeps me in.
It's locked.
Do you want us to call? Are we going to have to call the social services for you, Craig, or something like
that? Right. So anyway, I'm just trying to think. Sort of. It was around this time last year, wasn't it? February, when somebody knocked us out the FA Cup. What was the score, Craig? Was it 4-1? Now, you can imagine what would happen if the team that knocked us out this year, being a lower league team at the time, would then get knocked out by the same score this year by a lower league team. I mean, the chances of that happening. I don't know.
Vicissitudes.
They've got, it's all part of the growth, isn't it? That's what it is. You're back in the Premier League. You've got to go through these sort of rites of passage, as it were.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting you to fully lose your two-legged semi-final in the last minute. That's what we have to do as well. We had to go through that.
But can I just say, and all banter and joking aside, guys, congratulations on getting through. Enjoy it. I remember when we came up, it's very similar to us, wasn't it? We were we sat mid-table that first season, but we got to a final that year.
I think for us, I think for us after last night, the getting through is great. I don't expect us to win. I certainly don't expect us to beat Manchester United over two legs, based on what I saw at Old Trafford 2 weeks ago, where they were a class above us. We were not hammered like we were at the King Power or the Emirates or the Etihad, but United had 9 on the field who'd been in Qatar, and one of them, Varane, had played in a World Cup final. We battled hard, but we were outclassed. And I think, we need to win our first leg and then take something back to Old Trafford. Over 2 legs, I can't see us beating Manchester United. I just think they're a level above us. The people like Casemiro, Eriksen, Shaw, Rashford, they'll have too much for us. And as for last night, and I'm sure Luke will agree because he's probably heard Steve's post-match interviews, Steve was really, really happy at getting through, but not very happy at the way Forest played last night. He was saying, I don't want to be negative, but Forest still have lots to attend to. Yeah, we're happy to get through, but I don't. If it's us at Wembley on February the 26th, I'll be very, very surprised. And that's not defeatism or negativity. It's just looking logically at the relative strengths of Manchester United and Nottingham Forest as clubs and as squads.
Luke, I mean, a lot of conspiracy theories going on that the Newcastle and Man United were kept apart. Let's be honest with you, if you want to win it, you've got to beat these teams anyway.
Yes, you have to, but it's a very hard task.
Indeed, it
At
will
the
be.
moment.
And Andy says, just as I say then, it's all fixed. Personally, I hope Newcastle go on and win it, only because obviously they put us out.
Can I just when we walked out the ground last night, right? We all walked out. We were gobsmacked when we saw that Southampton had held on to the 2-0 lead that they'd had at half time, because there were mass faintings across the City ground when they saw that Southampton were 2-0 up against that lot. And we all walked out the ground, and everybody had the word Southampton on their lips. And I remember getting to the zebra crossing by the Trent Bridge Inn, and a fella shouted out, "It's Manchester United," and the sense of deflation was like palpable, you know. So, but I don't see any conspiracy theories. I mean, but
Craig,
you would imagine.
Do you remember a song, Craig, that was out a while ago? What Does the Fox Say?
I do remember that as well.
Yes. Yeah. It was released by Yelvis, a Norwegian comedy act. It got to number 1 in Norway, and it also got, believe it or not, got to number 1. Well, it got to number 3 in Sweden, but it actually made number 1 in South Korea, which was their own country, and it made number 17 in the UK singles chart, believe it or not. But they are bringing out a special 12-inch edition of it. And I've got to say, I've been really lucky, because it's one of those False Gap albums. You remember that, guys? You're all of my age. You know, the False Gap albums when you used to get them. I'm pleased to say I've been able to get hold of an early copy of the album art for the upcoming album. So...
Can I just say the hours must just simply fly by?
Nobody can ever say I waste my days.
That's a wolf, not a fox, anyway, isn't it?
No, it is a fox, according to Google. Don't you be questioning Mr. Google. That is definitely a fox, allegedly. But sorry, guys, I couldn't resist that. Okay, I mean, we've made one signing, possibly, which is like 1/200th of what Nottingham Forest have made in the last 12 months. But Craig, I wish we weren't facing Forest now. I honestly, for me, and I said this to you earlier on a text, for me, I mean, when we came back from the World Cup, we were on a bit of a high. But when you look at the teams that we were beating, and no disrespect to them, they were all bottom half teams. We lost to Newcastle. We should have beaten Liverpool, especially when they went on and were beaten by Brentford. Fulham, great respect to them, and they're winning, against Chelsea tonight. But that's probably a game again we should have won. I think the second Newcastle, the cup game, was a bit of a freebie, because I think we were always destined to lose that one. I think he's gone if we lose this one.
Yeah, I know you said that earlier to me, and as I say, I'm not sure. I think he'll get another game. I think it'll be much harder for him. Don't get me wrong. If we lose this, he's going to be so much under pressure. It's untrue. What I would think is he will then have, if we get this player in, he'll then have him for the next game, because I'm sure he won't be ready for Forest. No. So he'll have him for the next game, and that next game is at home against Brighton. If he then loses that, the atmosphere will be toxic, and it would be very hard for the owners to continue to hear how toxic it's becoming, and the fact that, if they've backed him. But it's a really tricky one, because, if there's any transfers in the offing now, they will be well underway. There'll be negotiations going on. The players will be signing for the club, but also signing for the manager. And then, very much like has happened at Chelsea, they brought in 2 or 3 players to play for Tuchel and then promptly sacked him. That's not worked out particularly well for Chelsea at the moment. So it's
memories of Kante and Pearson a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before. It's a real balancing act for the owners, and I think they sort of missed the opportunity. If they were going to sack him, I think they missed the opportunity around the World Cup, but then we'd put that really good run of games together, 5 unbeaten, I think, and we'd got ourselves out of trouble. Now it's going to be that, right, okay, we've brought new players in, or we're negotiating to bring new players in. Are we going to change the manager then? And then it's a gamble. So you either gamble on a new manager, or you gamble that you're going to stick with what you've got. And it's a toss of a coin, to be honest. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Nathan Jones, really struggled. I think, is it Nathan Jones? I think really struggled at first at Southampton. It didn't look like they could get a result from anywhere. And then they pulled that one out of the bag. By all accounts, the performance was good. It's whether he can build on that. I'm not sure, but it's a tricky one. This is the one of the time. We'd all love to have a football club. This is the one time that I'm glad I'm not having to make the decision.
Luke, I mean. We'll look at some stats later. Let's have a look at it now. Let me just bring the stats up, Luke. Are you thinking, I'm glad I'm playing Leicester now?
At the moment, I am, yes. Afterwards, we'll see. I probably will be. But there has been games there that you really should have won. Liverpool, you should have won that. Unfortunate about Fairs, and it was from 2 unfortunate on goals. But yeah, Newcastle a free hit, and Fulham. I mean, they're just in another league at the minute, aren't they?
Yeah, they are doing really well. And Dave, I mean, looking at that there, I mean, you can see the league positions were pretty much equal on points, but you are the form team going into this. You got the royal flush since the World Cup. You lost 1, drew 1, won 1. We've just lost, and you've got to go pre-World Cup for us to see any green at all. Again, the odds really. You're at home. You're on the form team, if you like, out the two of us. You've got to be feeling pretty confident.
I almost think it's a complete reversal of the approaches to the game at the King Power on October the 2nd, I think it was. I think, going into that game, Leicester had their full strength squad at the time. I think the key issue on Saturday in this game of football is the absence of James Maddison. The key issue. Because if you stuck the 25 of Nottingham Forest and the 25 of Leicester City into a combined squad and took anybody who knows anything about football and said to him, right, take the one player out of that you would love to have in your team, any team in the world, they're going to take James Maddison. And I think if I look back to that night at the King Power, where Leicester were worthy winners and deserving of the 4-0, although I would say Taiwo Awoniyi hit the post before Leicester really grabbed Forest by the short and curlies. Now that goes in, that shot of Taiwo Awoniyi's goes in instead of hitting the post, and I think we would have seen a toxic King Power that night that was ready for seeing Brendan off. Now, Leicester rode their luck, and then Maddison, and I thought Keenan Dewsbury Hall was superb that night. I think he might be missing as well Saturday. Leicester took control. Now, to my way of thinking, if I'm going to be ruthless and discourteous to Leicester City, I'm really glad James Maddison's not playing on Saturday, because he is world-class in my view. He's the one world-class player in both squads, if you put them together. So I think, it is actually almost a match of two injury lists. We're probably going to have Willy Bolly out. Taiwo Awoniyi's going to be out. Jesse Lingard's going to be out. Cheku Kayati is going to be out, who would be key people for us. But I think Leicester's injury list is because of Maddison and Evans, and if Dewsbury Hall doesn't play, then I think it does, on paper, but we don't play games on paper. You would have to say that as a factor, plus Forest's improved form at home. I don't think we've been beaten at home since we lost to Fulham, and we played really well at home. We finally weaponised the crowd at the City Ground to be hostile. I think the key issue for this match is how Leicester deal without Maddison. He's such a talisman, and how they deal with a hostile atmosphere, because the City Ground is lying in wait for Leicester. And I think, We beat you in the cup 4-1. Leicester wanted revenge and got it. Now the boot's on the other foot. Forest want revenge. And Forest, no Forest fan, no Forest fan has forgotten that game at the King Power, because that game at the King Power, not only was it a watershed for Leicester City, because it was their first really good win of the season, it was a watershed for Nottingham Forest, because Steve Cooper, the Forest fans wanted Steve Cooper. They got Steve Cooper, and then Nottingham Forest as a football club, certainly the coaching staff said, right, that happened at the King Power on Monday night, we make sure that doesn't happen again. Forest changed their whole style of play after that game. They went from 3 at the back, which had served them well in the Championship, and they went to 4 at the back. And while the football hasn't been as attractive as it was in the Championship, Forest take out 5-0 at Arsenal, take out 3-0 at Manchester United. In all the other games, Forest have become irritably hard to beat for other teams. We're not going to score many goals, but I do think we've tightened up at the back. So it's a really interesting game. It's beginning to.
That everybody was the short answer from Dave.
yeah. But I'm just saying to you, lads, if I'm looking at it, and I try and look at these things neutral. I forget sometimes. Yeah. I have to put to one side. I'm Nottingham Forest. If I'm looking at it as a neutral, I'm thinking that the team with the harder job, marginally, on Saturday afternoon is Leicester City, because if I'm going to Nottingham, if I'm a Leicester fan, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, and I'm going to the City Ground for a derby match, and I'm missing what I consider to be a world-class midfielder in James Maddison. That is a big gap that Leicester have to plug. We're missing people, but I don't think our gaps, I think, can be filled easier than Leicester filling Maddison's gap.
Well, you've got more players to do that, haven't you? But Craig,
not all of them good enough, though, to be honest.
Well, Craig, I mean, today it is press conference. Maddison, he's progressing but won't be available. He's still with the medical team. Pratt is back in training, but his first day of training was today, so it's questionable whether he'll be back. Kieran Dewsbury Hall is not back either, and he won't be in training tomorrow. It'll be sometime next week. Even though Jose Perez is injured, I mean, I said this to Rob Tanner the other day when I did the transfer interview, is what the hell is going on with these injuries? And we have got players there that are good enough to play, but he's just so bloody stubborn that it just say Leicester have not got a small squad. Let's put that to bed now, because every team in the Premier League has got the same size squad. Brendan, though, Craig, has got a small group of players that he trusts.
He has, but he's also got another 5 or 6 of those who are unavailable. So, as you said, Maddison, Dewsbury Hall, Pratt. You've also got James Justin. You've also got Ricardo Pereira. You've got Johnny Evans. Obviously, I'm not a big fan, but there's 6 for a start who potentially would be playing that or would strengthen the bench a lot. And he's having to rely on sort of untried kids, shall we say. So McAteer, Brunt, who played the other day in the Cup. So I think it's, again, strength in depth and quality in depth is being pushed a little bit. And we sometimes lose sight of that we haven't got our full strength team. Half the team is missing, but we talk about other clubs. Like I know you've had a big rant at Newcastle in the past few weeks, Chris, about their level of entitlement. Yeah, that they seem to have this feeling of entitlement now that they've got all this money. But I think Leicester are a little bit in a similar boat, that we feel like we have this level of entitlement because of what we've done, and that we should now be at that level the whole time. And realistically, we can't be, because we can't compete with the massive clubs with their huge budgets. And our strength in depth is being severely sort of hampered by these injuries. I don't know what it is. Something's going on. I don't think it's just us. There are some other clubs who have got really big injury lists as well. But the biggest thing for me in this game.
Can I just say, if anybody can hear, that's not my stomach, that is thunder outside. In case anybody was wondering.
The biggest thing for this game, yes, the players that are missing, but it will be how much desire Leicester City have and the players have, because that Forest will have, and that's got you a big chunk of your success this season. I would say that you play aggressive football on the front foot. Very often you're playing it on the edge, and then you've made the most of the breaks that you've got. You've won, a few games by the odd goal. Your striker seems to have everything that hits him goes in. He had that little patch at that point. But it's all about, for me, it's a cliche, isn't it, that you've got to earn the right to play your football. And if we don't do that, we won't get the chance to play the football. And I think even with our injuries, and no disrespect, I think if it was a purely football game with no contact, we would win it. But this is not football,
Craig,
is it?
you are sounding like Jurgen Klopp every time I speak to you. I mean, there is, and I've said this to you before, but there's a player that sits on the bench, quite often doesn't even get on the bench, that is being sought after allegedly by one of the best defensive teams in Europe, a team that is constantly in the semi-finals of the Champions League. And yet we are picking Daniel Amati, who I like, but has got a mistake in him every game. We are picking him over Soyuncu. So we have got the quality there. And then the other question I would say is that we've had these injury problems. It's not just this season. Last season, 19 injuries we had at some point during the season to players. What the hell is Brendan doing on that training field? Rob Tanner says, we've got this £100 million training centre. We've got some pitches that are hard because apparently Jamie Vardy likes to train on a hard pitch. We've got some training pitches that are soft because Johnny Evans can't play on a hard pitch. What we're going to do now, send out somebody before the game kicks off and feel it's like owning a bloody racehorse. We can't play Johnny because it's not the right ground for him. What the hell is Brendan Rodgers doing?
Sounds like Nicky Henderson or Paul Nicholls.
He's just, you know what the thing is. Chris is like a loose horse. Once he's gone, you have to let him go and let him calm down. There's no point trying to rein him in.
No, but I mean, it's ridiculous. So, we know why are we even talking about? Sorry, get Nottingham guys. I'll be back to you in a second. But why are we even talking about giving Johnny Evans an extension when he'll probably play 2 games and be injured for the other 36?
No idea. Absolutely no idea. You're
on side with me on that one.
And to be honest, rather than these journalists, reporting on the state of a pitch or the hardness of a pitch, wouldn't it be nice now and again for them to ask a question that meant something? Hey, Brendan, why are you offering Johnny Evans an extension to his contract when he's rarely fit? No, let's not ask that. Let's ask the state of the pitches. I mean, come on. Journalism has gone out the window. Nobody wants to be the one who gets kicked out and is not allowed to attend press conferences anymore. So nobody asks any challenging questions. So the fans these days are kept in the dark the whole time, and all that feeds is conspiracy theories all over social media.
I'm not saying he asked that question, but that was what that was his answer to one of my questions.
Come back and report on something that actually people are interested in, the questions that fans want asking. Why are these players being given extra contracts? Do you really want to keep them? I know they have to be a little bit guarded, but I mean, it would be nice to know, a few things like that to stop the rumour mongering, which goes on.
Yeah. Luke, David says there he's watched a fair few Forest games. God, have you been naughty, David? I mean, Netflix broke down, did it? I've watched a fair few Forest games. And my question is, with all the new signings you have made so far, do you still feel as if you are missing quality? And if so, where?
Yes, in areas. I do. I hope that this window is nothing like what we did in the summer.
Would you agree with that, David?
Yeah, I'm with Luke on that. I don't think you will see, probably again in history, a window like the one that Nottingham Forest knocked up in September. I mean, but Luke will back me up on this. Talking about journalists and journalism, they got completely the wrong end of the stick. They didn't look at the fact that Forest had to do what they did. It wasn't, we're Nottingham Forest, we're swinging the lead and swinging the cash, just like to make some kind of vacuous point. 5 loans went, people who are at the ends of contract. Basically, the ones who were then good enough for the Premier League from the team that got promotion, it had to be done. Unfortunately, I think what happened was that a lot of them were Steve Cooper signings, and then a lot was people who've never played the game, who've never got dog muck on their leg on a Parks pitch, making a 50-50 tackle against a bloke who's drunk from the night before, got hold of the team and thought, hey, this is my toy now. We're in the Premier League. I can go and sign whoever I want. A lot of those signings were not Steve Cooper's. So I think it started off with good intentions and it was stretched out to something much more than that. What you will see now is that I think he'll go, and I'd like to think Steve Cooper's leading this, and Alan Tate and Andy Reid and Jamie Robinson, our coaching staff, with Filippo Giraldi, our new director of football, whatever that means, that they make 3 or 4 good ones. We definitely, but then I think most of the teams in the Premier League, bar Tottenham, Fulham and Manchester City, need a striker. In the old days, you could look at every team in the first division back when I was a kid, and every team had a really good centre forward who knew how to score goals. Jeff Astle, Martin Chivers, Ron Davis, John Toshack, John Ritchie, all these strikers. Every club had one. Leicester had Frank Worthington, terrific, great players Nowadays, there's Harry Kane, Alexander Mitrovic and Erling Haaland, and then the rest we're all playing with false nines. So we need to find a striker from somewhere, and I think because of the injuries, Steve's hand will be forced in midfield to go and find a combative midfielder. And I think there'll be one more centre half. Other than that, it's credit to Steve that a lot of that talk about and the jokes, apart from this channel, about signing 20-odd people aren't talking about that anymore. So I think that's credit to Steve that he's got us to this point where I'm not saying everybody in that squad's happy, but to the naked eye from looking in, they appear to be happy. You know what I mean? So,
do you think, though, Luke, that you made too many signings?
Yes, but I don't think they were all done by Cooper. I blame more the board for signing so many players than I do Steve Cooper.
But if that's the case, then surely as a manager, Steve Cooper will say, look, if you want me to sign this new contract, I want the decisions on the players that come in, nobody else. Otherwise, you're just a puppet, aren't you?
I think, Chris, the Tuesday, the Wednesday, the Thursday and the Friday that followed the Leicester hammering at the King Power, I think there were negotiations going on, and I might be wide of the mark, but if I'm looking in from the outside, and I'm trying to put myself in Steve Cooper's shoes, I'm Steve Cooper at that contract negotiation saying, let me make the football decisions. Keep your son out of my hair. Let him go and sail his yacht round Greece and leave the football to me. Because I do think, in fact, and I'm going to name drop, I met Henry Winter, the chief football writer for the Times, outside the City Ground just before the Villa game. And he said to me, I actually went and thanked him. He put a really nice tweet about our lot at the King Power, singing even when we were getting hammered, right? And I thought we were fantastic that night. The fans, the team were shocking. The fans were great. And he put a tweet on about how good the Forest fans were that night. I went across to the team, Henry, thank you so much for your kind tweet. And he goes, well, you were fantastic. He said, what do you think of what's happened? And I said, why should we get rid of the best manager we've had for 23 years? I said, I think that there's a meddling element in the club that has been told to keep their fingers out. And Henry Winter at the Times, probably our foremost football writer in the country, went, do you mean the owner's son? And I said, in Francis Urquhart style from House of Cards, you might say that, Henry, but I couldn't possibly comment.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So I think if I'm Steve Cooper and I'm running Nottingham Forest and I'm a football man like Steve Cooper is, and some playboy with a fancy shirt on is coming in and telling me who I should be picking, I would say, mate, until you've scored 30 goals in the Premier League, don't come and tell me. So I'm not going to tell you how to run a channel, Chris. I'm not going to tell Craig how to live his life, and I'm not going to tell Luke how to live his life. You know what I mean? And I just think
Craig locked upstairs, so you definitely.
We're all Craig banners. Get him out.
I'm
sorry for ranting, but I do think that Steve said, I'll sign that contract if you keep him out of my ear. And actually,
No,
the fact that we've
I was getting at. You know, would you be saying that?
I just noticed, Chris, on that. I was just checking Twitter there, and about 10 minutes ago, it looked like you were very close to signing Danilo.
Yeah.
Is he the player that you need?
I know very little about him, Craig, to be honest. But what I would say is that we're building a little Brazilian colony within our club. So Renan Lodi came. He was awful at your place, truly awful. But since he was left out of the Brazilian World Cup squad, he's improved. Magnificent, I thought, last night, especially in dealing with Adama Traore when he came on. Scarpa has come in, can do a Rubik's Cube in 34 seconds, lightning. If he's that quick with that, he should be able to work his way around the football field. And Danilo is at Palmeiras, which is where Scarpa was. So Danilo looks to be a done thing. But again, if he comes in, it's going to take him a month, maybe 2 months to get used to the pace of this.
Is he not the ex-Man City guy?
No, not that one. That guy was a right back, I think.
Yeah.
This guy is a sort of a... I tell you what he is. He's a replacement, I would think, for Cheku Kayate, who got injured in the World Cup for Senegal.
We have got some breaking transfer news, just as you mentioned that, Craig. Apparently, Chelsea have put in a £60 million bid for Nicolas Gonzalez from Leicester for 2 years' time when they want to buy him. It's only rumours, folks. It's only rumours. I mean... to be honest with you, I'm not going to do a team this week, Craig, because I don't think it's he's not got much to go with.
Well, to be fair though, Chris, I think we got it for the cup game, and we should just retire on that. I think we should, as close as we're ever going to get.
I think 9 out of 11. I think we got that for that team. Yeah. But I was impressed with Brunt and McAteer. I've got to be honest with you. I thought Brunt, all he wanted to do was get that ball into the box. And all McAteer wanted to do was try and get on the end of it. I mean, there's two players, and again, you could argue, the standard of team who were playing, and no disrespect to Forest, give them a run out.
It's funny, isn't it? Because it's funny how we see different things. I watched that game with Scott, and I said about Brunt, I said that kid is never going to make a Premier League player, so just get rid of him. I think sometimes I just thought his delivery into the box without being under pressure was poor. He put 1 or 2 good ones in, but you can see, he could be a squad player. But at that age, for him and for the club, that's not what you need, to be honest. You need to think, if you're going to be a progressive club, you have to make some tough, hard decisions sometimes. You think, right, is that kid going to be good enough to become a Premier League player? Some you won't get right. They'll go somewhere else and they'll become stars. But other times you've got to do it to allow the next one to come through, the next one who might be even better. And I think sometimes you end up having so many around the place that they clog up the progress of others. So you have to make some tough decisions. And personally, from what I've seen of him, Villa let him go, and I think we picked him up from there. He's not really got enough about him at the minute, and it may be that he's another one who needs to go on loan and toughen up a bit. But
undoubtedly, I think, I won't argue the fact that he would need that loan. But it is funny what you say, because I had Julian Watts, ex-player, that comes on occasionally, actually pick I think it was Perez as a man of the match in the game we were talking about, and yet everybody else was saying what a bad game he'd had. There are, this is why we love football, of course. But for me, at least, Brunt was attempting to put the ball in the box. And that was something that I hadn't seen much of in games preceding that. When we played Newcastle, in the cup, I think they were scared to go over the white line. It was almost like, that's the white line. We don't go past that.
I get that. And I don't want to pick on some young kid, but when you get to that level that you are a professional footballer, you should be able to do better. And I don't care that it's like, at least he was trying it. To be honest, we could all 4 of us go and try it.
Well, some of the professionals weren't.
Well, but, again, it just comes down to the fact of squad depth and the strength in it. And McAteer, I thought, was making some decent runs and trying to get on the end of things. It comes down to, I also wonder how prescripted it is of how we play. And I think it really is. I think Brendan has a set way of playing and you stick with it. And I think he sort of throttles creativity. We were watching that game and thinking, how often does, and it's not just Leicester, in football in general, how often does a player try and go past a player anymore? It's rare. They're always looking to just pass it on or pass sideways, or it's possession. And until you start going past people and drawing players out of position, you know, we can't all be Man City, but every manager thinks that their players can be.
Yeah. The funny thing is, last season, of course, when we played Watford in the third round of the FA Cup, we had to put the youngsters out because half the team were down with COVID, and we stuffed Watford, who were at the time a Premier League team. I think it was 4-0 or something like that, or even 4-1. We then went to play Nottingham Forest in the next round. All the professionals came back, and Forest stuffed us 4-1. Yeah. So to me, you know, the fact of, you know, I'd sooner have somebody that's willing to try something and willing to try and get forward than somebody who, you know, who isn't trying.
And it's good that, you know, if they're playing with a bit of bravery and as you say, trying something before it's coached out of them.
Yeah. I mean, Facebook user here says Luke Thomas needs to go out on loan. God, no. I mean, if he goes out on loan, we haven't got a left back. Let's just say, you know, unless you want Brian Bertrand to come on with James Justin pushing him in a wheelchair. You know, that's all we've got. Luke, how are Nottingham Forest going to approach this?
I think we will be a bit confident after what happened last night. I think, yes, it is time to look what's ahead, calm down, focus on Leicester. After that, celebrate it and move on as you do in football. It comes quickly. You can't celebrate much.
You can't. I mean, Dave, I mean, you've got to say, got a final to look forward to. I don't know how you'll get on if you get to the final because John Moss has retired. But did I say that out loud?
Living in Huddersfield now, apparently.
But I mean, again, you're going to go for this. I think, like Craig mentioned earlier, I think it was that, you know, you lot should probably be up for this a little bit more than we are. Are you? What sort of formation do you see Cooper putting out?
The one that he stuck with ever since the debacle at Leicester, which changed his thinking. He wasn't rigid in his thinking. A back three with like really attacking wing backs got us out the Championship. That night at Leicester, that system was shown to be yesterday's news. Since that night at Leicester, like I say, take out Arsenal, take out Manchester United, we've been a lot more difficult to break down. So what I liked was Steve wasn't so rigid in his thinking and so tunnel vision that, right, this is my way or the highway. He kind of went back and after Leicester and he thought, this can't go on. And we've been better. I think what happened last night was informed by what happened at Blackpool. He was furious after Blackpool because 11 changes, not, you know, barely, only Scarpa probably, and he started last night. None of the others advertised their claims whatsoever. He was furious. He wanted to see depth in squad. Utterly furious. A Steve Cooper furious is a scowl. You know, somebody else furious, ranting and raving. So I think last night's win was informed by I don't want that again. And I think he was in a bind last night when he did his post-match interviews because he was extremely happy to get to a semi-final of the Carabao Cup against Manchester United, a first semi-final for 31 years. But he was definitely not impressed with the way we played last night. And I think I saw his presser for the Leicester game this morning, and he said they'll be coming in later on. There are things that we can do better than we did last night, and I shall be letting them know about that when I speak to them. I thought he left out the phrase "in no uncertain terms." When Leicester come to us on Saturday, Nottingham Forest will be primed to go. They will have a rocket up their backside because he wants more. He always wants more. Semi-final of the Carabao. Yeah, it's lovely. I mean, personally, I just want 17th. I don't give a damn about anything else. Anything else is peripheral noise. It's of no consequence, right? 17th is everything. Anything above that is a bonus. I think we will try to start on the front foot. We did it last night and we faded. Wolves took over second half. Wolves should have won last night, really. That's the truth of the matter. They kept the ball better than us. But for Dean Henderson, we'd have been out, right? They should have had a penalty as well, Wolves. So I think Steve will be letting that lot know that, look, this is a local derby. That means, we might think the derby's our rivalry, but Leicester are coming here and Leicester, they've lost, 3 or 4 on the bounce, having had a good run before the World Cup interrupted them. If Forest are not at it early on and they allow Leicester a foothold in the game and a grasp of the initiative, then it's going to be really, really difficult. But I don't think anybody at Nottingham Forest after last night and certainly after last Saturday at Blackpool will be resting on laurels. They'll be like no hiding place. And I think what they have to do as well, they have to engage the 30,000 in the ground, because our form, our slight rise up the table is predicated on that home form and weaponising the crowd against opposition. Liverpool couldn't handle it. Chelsea struggled to deal with it. So as I say, that's the way Forest have got to go. They've got to tick it to Leicester early on, like they did in the cup game. Back a year ago.
You won't let it lie, will you? You won't let that lie. I mean,
it's just a reference point,
Yeah. I prefer the reference point from October. Craig, we have not won in the Premier League ever at the City Ground. And you look at this is the current form. Forest, last 9 games at home, won 3, drawn 3, lost 3. An average point of 1.33 a game. Our away form, played 9, won 3, lost 6 with a 1 point. Are we right to be worried about this one?
I think so. I would say, how many years of the Premier League years have we actually been in the same division?
Fairness, apart from one game, you do have to go back to last century.
Yeah. But no, I think
in the Premier League.
I can say, for me, the worry is that we can't match the intensity that Forest will play with, and particularly will start with. We saw that against Newcastle in the cup game. They could have been 2 or 3 up within the first 10 minutes because they played with a level of intensity with a hostile crowd. We're going to go to Forest with a level of intensity and a hostile crowd. We've got to be able to deal with that much, much better. We've got to match that and make it a game. As you said about Forest being much harder to beat, thing is, in the Premier League, if you can stay in a game, you've always got a chance to win it. And I think that's where the change came, that you were finding yourself, out of games. Although there was a couple early on, I think, where you were well in the game and should have won the game and threw them away.
Bournemouth and Fulham, Craig. Yeah, Bournemouth and Fulham. Yeah.
Yeah, but now I think, you try and be the aggressor. I think from what I've seen, you've got some very good, players, and I wish we had a couple of those players to add some intensity to our game. But that's where I'm a little bit more worried, in the fact that we don't have the aggression and the players with a bit more bottle. I think we're a little bit too weak, and that's where we can come a cropper against teams who are more aggressive and more on the front foot than we are.
I think, actually, Craig, what you talk about, mate, Luke will back me up on this. I think the person who embodies that for us, and I think he's exceeding everything that we thought he was capable of, is Ryan Yates.
Yeah.
Ryan Yates embodies that. Like last night, he was like a rash. We were watching him and thinking, God, if we were the Wolves tonight, I'd be fed up of him. You know what I mean? Even telling Ruben Neves to F off when Ruben Neves was holding Nunez's boot at the referee. So Yates, he embodies that for us. And
he's like similar going back years a bit. You'll remember, Steve Walsh. They have limited ability. But nobody could take anything away from them when it came to aggression and intimidation.
Unlike Junior Lewis, who just had limited ability and absolutely nothing else whatsoever. Gentlemen, a question for you. Who remembers Vogue by Madonna?
Yes, indeed, of course.
It's been a while since we've done the daily. Well, it used to be a daily. It started off as a daily Arsenal, then it kind of expanded to the daily Tottenham. Now I've just got it as the daily trophy. And the reason I asked about Vogue by Madonna, because that was actually number one the last time that Nottingham Forest won a trophy. And I can tell you how long it is since they've done that, seeing as you asked the question. 32 years, 258 days, 4 hours, 58 minutes, and 18 seconds, 19 seconds, 20 seconds, 21 seconds. That is how long it has been.
Oldham Athletic.
It was Oldham Athletic in the
Nigel Jensen.
You know, you looking at the same website as me.
No, it's just ingrained in my mind.
Well, I suppose when you don't win that much, it does.
Cling to it. Scraps.
Couldn't resist that. Craig, I appreciate your battery's going. Do you need to go?
No, I'm all right for a few minutes. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Talking of Arsenal, just for anybody who was worrying, it's the computer battery, not my personal battery.
I tell you what, Craig is like the Duracell bunny. His wife puts a battery up into his back, and we rephrase that every night to keep him going. Melina, good evening.
Hi,
How
Melina.
the devil are you? Welcome along. She's probably glad that there's no longer the daily Arsenal. Couldn't resist that, guys. Couldn't resist that. Craig, stick with you for a minute. Who are you worried about then in the Forest team?
Well, I think it is the likes of Yates. I think Brennan Johnson on his day can be a really tricky customer, but I don't know if Forest fans are a little bit disappointed with what he's returned this year. In flashes, he's looked really good, but again, young player consistency will always come into it with him. But he definitely got something about him, that kid. But yeah, Yates, Aurier, I think has been decent. Now, I know it sounds weird, but Harvey Barnes was tearing. I don't know. I can't remember who the right back was when in the 4-0 was having a great game, probably his last decent game for us. And then Cooper brought Aurier on, and Barnes didn't get past him once. And I think sometimes that bit of experience has sort of brought the rest of the defence on, and he's been very good, to be honest.
Do you know what, Craig? That's a brilliant point, mate. And I love the fact that you've picked Serge Aurier out, because in all this blizzard of signings, the last one in the door with the least amount of fanfare and no fee paid. In fact, he didn't sign until after the window was shut because he was a free agent. And he has been a revelation. He's been terrific. Nico Williams was our right back that night. Now, Nico went to the World Cup. Now, actually, he did okay for Wales. He had a bit of an emotional roller coaster because his granddad died, and then he had a whack on the head off Marcus Rashford in the England game. So Nico's a good player. But Serge Aurier
played in the Welsh team, didn't you?
Wayne Hennessy, Brennan Johnson, Nico Williams, three of them,
And I just wondering if that had anything to do with the fact that they came home early.
I don't know, mate. I don't know. Well, Wayne Hennessy got sent off, so he didn't exactly colour himself in glory. But Serge Aurier, and I'm really glad you've picked him out, Craig. That's really perceptive. When people who support other clubs pick out a guy like that who we think that only we can see, to me, Craig, that shows a really good level of perception. He's been terrific, and it's got to the point now where he's like one of the first names on the team sheet, and he's a good character around the dressing room as well. I tell you, when he was the key game for him, and it may be a pivotal game in our season, was the Tottenham Carabao Cup game where we beat Tottenham 2-0 and should have won by more. We were excellent. And Aurier, against that lot, given what his history with Tottenham, was outstanding that night. And I think he's been, you sign somebody, you cluster bomb, and you hit a few targets and you miss a few, right? But Serge Aurier, given that he was the most unpromising of the lot, has been a real revelation, you know.
Well, welcome along to the Dave and Craig loving.
My battery's beginning to go actually at the moment.
Yeah,
so,
well,
you
I'm
know.
sure you two can charge each other up, I'll tell you. James Swain, good evening.
Hi, James.
Welcome
Lovely
along.
lad.
Welcome
Lovely
along.
lad he is.
Luke,
Dear old
who
James.
the squad worries you? Not
Uh,
who will be playing probably, but who worries you? Evening, man.
he does Varda isn't the same as he once was.
No.
Well, it's just a shame.
No, he has
Oh,
seen
the-
better days. I think we've got to agree on that.
Harvey Barnes, though, he's the main one I'm frightened of. If we can keep him quiet, we've got every chance of winning the game.
Yeah. Luke, I think, mate, I agree with Luke. I really like Harvey. I think he's a really good kid. I saw him on Soccer AM a couple of weeks ago. Smart kid. And I think the duel between Harvey and probably Renan Loddy is going to be one of the most crucial, because Renan Loddy, he was appalling that night at the King Power. But since he was left out of the Brazilian World Cup squad, he's become a real good player for Forest, very solid. And I think Barnes against Loddy, although, you know, and then if Harvey decides he's had enough out on the left, taking on Loddy, he'll have to go the other side and try Serge Aurier. Well, Serge Aurier is built like an armoured vehicle. Do you know what I mean? So I think Harvey Barnes is a quality player. I'd love to have Harvey Barnes at Forest. I really would. I love the lad.
Craig, I mean, Harvey Barnes divides opinion. I like the guy again. Whatever, he can't win. A few seasons ago, he was pulled up for, never shooting and always losing the ball. Last season, he was shooting and everybody said he was being selfish. Poor guy can't win. He's certainly a Marmite player with Leicester fans, Craig. I like him. He does have a go at the defence. Which side of the actual fence do you sit on with Harvey?
Well, I think I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. Brendan Rodgers will hang himself on Harvey Barnes' shirt, because at the moment, Harvey Barnes is not delivering, and we play our system to accommodate Harvey Barnes. So, and we looked a much better side against Newcastle when we went to 2 up front. Harvey Barnes hasn't developed the way that we'd all hoped he would do, but he's a confidence player. And he's not confident at the moment. And you can see that if he has a run against his fullback in the first 10 minutes and doesn't get past him, he probably won't try again. So you might as well take him off. For me, we'd be better off bringing him on after 20 with 20 minutes to go, rather than taking him off with 20 minutes to go, so he can run a tiring defence and get his confidence back. Because at the moment, I think he's not really at the level that we hoped he would be.
We say we like 2 up front, and we know Rodgers only ever goes to that sort of usually on about the 85th minute. But I mean, what about Barnes playing off a front strike?
My issue is I smirked when you said he's a bright lad when you saw him on TV, but I don't think he's got a footballing brain that's clever enough to play there. You watch him, and again, it's like, with certain players like Aurier or whatever, when you see a lot of a player, you can probably be more critical or more appreciative. So I see a lot of him, and I think part of it is that what a good player he can be, that you become more critical of when he's not doing it, and he doesn't seem to. His decision making has been really poor post World Cup, and I think sometimes he looks to get rid of the ball because he's not playing with confidence. But his movement off the ball is really disappointing. That he should be making runs off the ball to create space as well. And I don't think he has that appreciation of other players around him enough that even though he's not going to get the ball, he can make space for others. And it's just real. I get frustrated with him because that there's so much more in there that he's not showing. So for me, he needs to be taken out and allow us to switch to a 4-4-2.
Looking at this, I always find I did the stats show before every game. Now I do a separate show where it's an hour full of stats. But some interesting things here that this website picks up on team characteristics. The strengths for Nottingham Forest, they have you down for your aerial duels and stealing the ball from the opposition. Apparently, you're strong at both of those, which is good because one of the weak things we do is holding on to the ball. Shooting from direct free kicks is very strong, although I do think, Craig, that's probably when Maddison was playing, and creating long shot opportunities. But, Craig, do you think, I mean, it's all right saying like long shots, we're good at long shots, but is that because we literally can't get into that final third and get into the box?
Well, yeah, I think we have a reluctance to shoot when we get anywhere near. We try and overplay. So I'm surprised, to be honest. Those stats, I don't know what they're based on, but I mean, what makes you strong? If you have 30 long shots, does that make you strong at long shots, or is it the percentage of those that actually go on target? Statistics can
they do say, in fairness, that it is based on the games that have been played. So I suppose to look at the stat, we know with stats they can look at it anyway, and you can say the same thing both ways. I mean, Luke, weak for Nottingham Forest. They had your finishing scoring chances. You're bad at protecting the lead, defending against attacks down the wings. It's a long list here. Defending against long shots, defending against through ball attacks, defending set pieces, keeping possession of the ball is very weak for you, and avoiding fouling in dangerous areas. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. Look, this team is brand new. It's a brand new team. It'll take time. It won't happen overnight.
And your style, it says here, Dave, long balls, you attempt a lot of crosses, but you do take a lot of shots, long shots. But you like to play in your own half, and you rotate your first 11 a lot. I mean, you'll know if this is true or not. You're aggressive, which I think we touched on before, and apparently opponents play aggressively against you. I don't think that'll happen tomorrow, but again, is that spot on?
I think that's all pretty fair. I mean, in terms of stealing the ball from the opposition, I think Nico Williams leads the Premier League in interceptions and takeaways. So I think that's all fair. We don't shoot from distance. I think our new guy, Scarpa, the Brazilian guy, he looks like a guy who will take a shot from distance, but we haven't really got anybody else. In terms of long balls, we might do, but not very successfully, because we haven't got a big centre forward to aim for.
Yeah,
I mean, last night, our front three last night was Morgan, Gibbs-White, Brennan, and Gustavo Scarpa. So, and Taiwo, Awoniyi, when he's been playing, who is nominally our centre forward, although that's a loose term these days. Taiwo's success in the last few games since the World Cup ended has been playing as a winger. So at Southampton last week, and against Chelsea, and at Manchester United, he played. I actually think Taiwo played pretty well in all three of those games, but he played as a down the left-hand side as a right-footed winger, cutting back in. So, long balls are not the way for us to go. Until we get a striker in, somebody who can lead the line, hold the ball up, and bring others into play while scoring goals. We're going to be playing false nines, and I think so many teams in the Premier League are playing false nines because number nines, as I appreciate them, are dying out. But what I would say is these sort of findings that you put up now, Chris, are a world away from the findings you would have put up prior to the Leicester game at the King Power. So I think Forest have actually come quite a long way.
I hate the fact that you're using us as the fact that we've saved your season. I don't like that at all.
That night, if you like, that night at the King Power, if we're going to be philosophical about it, both seasons were saved because you got a massive tonic. Although some people would say, damn, I almost think there were some Leicester fans who wanted, in a way, Leicester to lose that night to get Rodgers out.
Possibly.
People don't want Rodgers, but that night it definitely gave your season a kickstart, and it gave ours a kick up the backside. So I think that game at the King Power was pivotal for both clubs.
Craig is back. He's borrowed his wife's charger and he's back with us.
What, she let him out of that bedroom?
Yeah, I'm going to say.
What, she let him out of his man cave? That's Craig's man cave. Look at all them death metal CDs he's got in the far corner. Look. Look at him.
They're all there.
We'll move swiftly on.
I think I was just going to say, Chris, I mean, the most telling thing on there is, on those stats, is backing up what I said. Forest, very aggressive. Leicester, non-aggressive.
Yeah,
I mean,
we did actually say that. Well,
yeah.
Looking at Leicester's things there, I mean, shooting from direct free kicks and creating long shot, like I say, I'm not so sure now we haven't got Madison in. Our weakness is protecting the lead. Yeah, I think we all agree with that, don't you? Aerial duels, avoiding individual errors. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Defending counter-attacks, defending set pieces, and defending against long shots is very weak. But I thought we'd got a defensive coach come in, Craig.
Yeah, we have. We just need it parked in front of the goal.
Oh, Dave's bladder's gone. Yeah, I just getting worried. Apparently, our style is long shots, short passes. Again, we know that. Attempt through balls, non-aggressive, which, like you said, is very much us. We like playing in our own half as well as Forest. So at this rate, whoever gets the ball, we'll just stick in the one half.
Maybe we'll just agree that we'll stick to our own halves and both take a point.
Yeah, put a net across the halfway line and play volleyball or something. And we like to play the offside trap, but I don't know. Well, it's that time when it is score prediction time. And it is very interesting this week because there's a lot of us are agreeing. Unfortunately, Craig, not a lot of them are agreeing with you.
Okay.
But we did discuss that, Scott. Actually, I don't think Craig wanted to. I hope that's the door that's creaking and not Dave's knees.
Sounds like our defence.
Yeah, it's creaking. Yeah, boom, boom. Nice one. I like that one. Does your bladder feel better, Dave?
Well, at my time of life, the bladder controls the brain rather than the other way around.
Yeah, don't we all?
You know, because I'm like what? I'm like 14 months away from 60, so.
You're a spring chicken, sir. You're a spring chicken.
Me and my old man have these conversations about getting up at night 3 or 4 times, honestly.
I think our birthdays must be very close because I'm about 13 months away from it as well. So
March the 17th, I am, Craig.
So am I, but the other way. I've gone past it by about 13, 14 months. But anyway.
Which could be Luke's age again. I'd love to be Luke's age. That'd be brilliant.
You wish.
Right, so score predictions. Brad has gone 4-2 to Leicester. He's hoping for a goal fest there. Craig went 2-1 to Leicester. And then myself and I, Jerry Taggart, Ian Marshall, Steve Lynex, and Steve Walsh have all gone for the same score. And we do it separately. We've all gone for a 1-1 draw. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. Almost, if you offer me that at the moment, I would take it. Would you, Craig?
Probably, the way that we've been playing at the moment. As I said, I don't think it's a must win, but it's a must not lose. So I think if we can take a point and move on to the next one.
James has gone 2-1 Forest. Luke, which way are you going to go? Well, we know which way you're going to go, but what score are you going to go for?
I said mine last night on your show, and I'm going to stick with 3-0 Forest.
3-0. Well, last time you're on.
Go on, Luke, lad. You Reds.
3-0 to Forest. Right. Dave.
Well, Chris, I'm really conscious of the sideways glance that Craig gave Luke when he said 3-0. Craig looked away and I think, my God. So I'm very aware of Craig's burning laser eyes into me.
Well, let's make it a bit easier for him, shall we? There we go.
I tell you what, Chris. Given the way both sides are playing, I don't think it'd be a goal fest. I think it'll be 1-0, and I think it's going to be. I think the home advantage will give Forest a narrow, hard-fought, not particularly attractive 1-0 win. But I don't think a draw doesn't do either any favours. No. Everybody in our little cabal of teams at the bottom of that Premier League. So Leicester downwards, and I include Crystal Palace because they've got to play some of the big six, and they could drop in. And if you take Wilf, Eze, and Elise out of the equation, there's not a lot else at Palace. So I don't think Palace are away. Villa, forget them; they'll be all right. But I think that everybody else in that little section will want a draw between Forest and Leicester.
There's some interesting games though tomorrow. Like
Everton Southampton leaps off the page.
There's 5 minutes, 5 points between us and Villa. Like you say, Palace, but Villa, I think, like you say, are probably going to be safe. And that we don't want that gap getting bigger and bigger.
No.
Yeah, I mean, Everton are hosting Southampton. Wolves are hosting West Ham. That's another one we could see Moyes go. And there's some North London derby and Manchester derby as well. God knows what that is. But Scott's gone at 3-0 to Forest. Happy days, Scott. He's a Leicester fan as well. Reverse psychology, I hope. And can I just say, I mean, I did take a little bit of the rye out of Forest earlier with the daily trophy. So it's only fair, really, that I'll do this. Since Newcastle last won a trophy, or a decent trophy, 67 years, 250 days, 5 hours, 19 minutes, 20 minutes now, and 1 second. My God, 67 years. That was before even you were born, Craig.
Is that the FA Cup?
They last won it. In fact, Perez was number 1. But that is Perez, Prado, and his orchestra.
Yeah.
Pink and apple blossom white.
I think that was that was a domestic trophy because they've won the Fairs Cup since then.
Well, we don't count.
Good shout, Craig.
Like yeah.
He took, in the words of Meatloaf, he took the words right out of my mouth.
They did beat. They won the very well known, and we should forgive me for not including this, UEFA Intertoto Cup in 2006. But their last major trophy, it says here, was the FA Cup in 1955 when they beat Manchester City 3-1. 67 years, Geordies. Don't know if Geordie is still in or not.
Jackie Milburn.
James Swain says, if you Leicester lot see me tomorrow in Leicester Town, you won't miss me in my Forest coat. Can I just say, and this is a serious note, and I know I joke a lot, but can I just say, I really do hope that we don't get a repeat of what we saw when we played Forest. And I'm saying that to Leicester fans, as well as Nottingham Forest fans, because, we were probably the cause of most of it, in fairness, in Forest. It's a football match, for God's sake. Let's just enjoy it, whether win, lose. If you're going to say to me, what would you sooner be, sat here, in 48 hours' time, having lost to Forest, or go over to Ukraine and sit there with a bomb going off all around your head? I know which I'd sooner do. There's bigger things going on in the world. Just keep your dick in your trousers, guys. You're not impressing anybody with it. Don't go looking for it, and just enjoy the game. And on that serious note, which is not like me, Luke, thank you very much for joining us. Give us a shout out to where people can find you again.
You can find me on YouTube, True Red, and you can find me on Instagram at LukeWilliams11.
Yeah, the True Red, and we will put those links into the description below afterwards. And the True Red on YouTube. Mate, I've got to say it. Hope we stuff you. Enjoy your
so that's where the civility. That's where the civility ends, is it?
Yeah.
Exactly. All the best, mate. Take care.
All the best, mate.
Cheers. Thanks for coming on. Dave, brilliant, mate. Thanks for coming on. We must start the banter shows again soon. I miss my Boss chats.
Well, we often, as you know, Chris, we wander off into secluded cul-de-sacs of culture, don't we? You know what I mean? So
we do.
Yeah, we do. It's good to see. I tell you, I'm fascinated though, Chris, because I'm the most easy to distract guy that's ever been around. Fascinated by Craig's man cave. He's got all sorts of stuff in there. Craig, I know she's trapped you in there and locked the door, mate, but why would you ever want to leave that room? It's got everything in it that you need.
Hey, who says I do want to leave it?
He has food pushed under the door.
It's one of them little slots like was in the Ipcrest file where he put a tray of food through.
It's basically a glorified prison cell.
Can I say we're actually lucky that she's allowed him to have electricity today because the light flashes on and off as we go.
Yeah, the meter will go off at 1:30.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Dave, mate, we'll start the banter show up again soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
And all the best to you and your family. But again, I hope you get stuffed at the weekend.
Yeah, whatever happens Saturday, lads, it's been a real pleasure tonight. You're two great guys who talk so well about football. It's always a pleasure to come on, and I'm just getting over the fact that I've had 3 Leicester City channels chasing my arse tonight. It's like nobody at Forest wants me on, but Leicester City, get this guy on. You know what I mean?
Well, they know you're associated with Dore. That's why.
The great man, he's in control. I'll leave it to the great man. You know what I mean? He was there. I was there with him last night. What a legend he is! Absolutely love the guy. But no, wish you both and your families all the best, and I wish you an irritating Saturday afternoon, and I'll see you in the future. All right.
Cheers, Dave.
Take care, gents.
Yeah,
all the very
Thank
best.
you.
See you later. Bye now.
Can we do it, Greg?
Yeah, we'll sneak it. You know, usually when our backs are against the wall, we'll scramble something.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. But you don't think he'll go? Like you say, it is a not lose game. 100%.
Yeah, it's a not lose for me. As I say, I think there'll be added pressure on the next home game. I think because then the fans will really have the opportunity to let everyone know what they think. So he'll need a performance against Brighton at the home game. I think even a win here, he'll still need a performance against Brighton. But hopefully, we'll have 1 or 2 faces through the door by then.
Coming up, I don't know if I read these out earlier. Coming up after Forest, it is home to Brighton, away to Warsaw, and even that worries me. Then we're away to Villa, home to Spurs, away to Manchester United, home to Arsenal before the end of February. Should we just go into hibernation? No,
I think we've probably got a bit more. We've probably got a bit more chance against teams who want to try and play football rather than out aggressors, to be honest. So we saw that when we went away to Liverpool, we had a much better performance there. When it was more about a football match than who's got the most aggression. I don't think we're ever going to win in an aggressive match. No. So maybe it'll turn for us. Let's hope so.
It may do. Craig, mate, all the best. And thank you very much for coming on.
You're welcome.
And we will speak next week. And hopefully we'll have a smile on our face.
Yes, indeed, mate.
And go and, mate, knock on the door 3 times so your wife lets you out.
Cheers, Chris. Thanks, everybody.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Thanks to Craig there, my wise old owl, and his recharged batteries. James, we are in the process, apparently, of signing somebody, an Argentinian Copa America winner. He wasn't in the World Cup squad, unfortunately, but he has won the CONMEBOL UEFA Cup of Champions, and as well as the Copa America. So a good signing if we get him. Left-footed right winger, just what Brendan has been asking for. Santa Claus has answered his questions. Okay, guys, what is coming up next? I hear you shout. What is coming up next, Chris? Well, I can tell you.
Coming up next on Leicester Till I Die TV.
Nine o'clock tomorrow, myself, Dave, and Brad. Question time is coming up. It's your show. You will want to ask the questions in the chat. If you don't, me, Brad, and Dave will just natter on. Always start it off with the first question, and that first question tomorrow will be, does Rodgers go if we lose? After that, we just go in whichever direction you take it. Craig is just doing his impersonation of a dog in the back of a car, shaking his head. But that's where we start. That's the starting point. But I appreciate everybody that's been in today. The two Nottingham guys, Craig especially, keeps me in check. And I will see you all tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Thanks so much. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new and spread the smash the like button as well. And we will see you all tomorrow. Good night. Take care. Don't do anything I won't enjoy.
That's all, folks.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
Leicester Till I Die TV